I missed my
Okay.
window.
So when we start out each of our meetings, we like to start with our mission statement, remind ourselves what our common mission is. And Gretchen, I believe you will be reading it this evening because you're the one with the tiara.
That's right.
I love the tiara. I meant to say that earlier.
Our mission is to provide an inspiring forum for women to explore and advance their creative development, to promote their work in the marketplace, and to infuse the community with their spirit of cooperation and invention. Go, us go!
Thank you.
Hey, is that the birthday girl we just saw?
No, she's wearing a tiara. So
No,
because,
June's birthday
oh,
girl.
June. Oh,
Ah.
wait there. Oh, yes, that is a birthday. That is a
Yeah,
birthday
I
gal.
have a tiara. I'm not wearing it though.
I have one too, but it's not here.
But
All
I
right, so
love your step.
before we get started with our meeting, we have a few board announcements. Our program person, Sally, is not here, but she sent me email. We talked recently about having some outdoor or WiVLA gatherings outside of the meeting. And one of the ideas that was tossed around was the U of H outdoor sculpture tour. And so she has made a reservation for 9, well, 10 plus her, so there's 9, to go and meet there on April the 3rd at 11 a.m. The first 9 people that send her email will get to go. And she has admitted to me that she's not great with the board email. So she would like you to send her email to the email address that I just posted in the chat. So it's worthington75@msn.com. And if y'all sign up before the meeting's over and I don't have a chance to sign up, I'm going to be very miffed. Okay.
Well, I mean, you could, if you get
I can stop the meeting
enough
right
people
now
that
and go
wanna
sign up.
she
Yeah,
she could do 2, right?
I know, but I want to go. Anyway, next up, I'd like to hear from our visual co-chairs. Marie, do you have an update on the virtual gallery?
We just launched one early this month. Actually, it went live the 28th, February 28th, and it'll be up March and April. And then we have a couple of artists lined up, of one visual and one literary for the following, for May, June. And we have a person that has selected July, August for her first choice, but if we don't get another visual, I'll reach out to her and ask her if she wouldn't mind going with her second choice. And I don't think that'll be a problem.
Yeah, so if anyone who's not familiar with this, we have a virtual gallery that you get a 2-month exhibition period. We have 2 visual artists and 1 literary who can show their work. We can share it with social media. You can share it with your clients. You can send email links. It's a great opportunity for you to show your stuff for 2 months. It's free. So the price is right and the exposure is great. We have an exhibition coming up later this year. Gladys, do you have an update on that?
Yes, I do, as a matter of fact. Marie and I decided on October.
Do you want to share what the theme is?
Awakening.
Thank you.
So people can start
I was
maybe
gonna have to go
working
back
on
and click my
something.
thing. Yes.
So I know the prospectus will be out soon, but for you to start working on something for a show, you might want to know what the theme is.
Mhm.
So it's awakening.
This is
And
collaborative.
I'm sorry, what was that?
This is
No,
the
this is a-
collaborative.
No, this is not the collaboration.
Okay.
No.
Sorry. I
But,
misheard.
and we'll get, I'm assuming Marie, speaking for you, we'll get more information out as far as scheduling about when you have to have your stuff in and all of that. I mean, we literally just decided October and got our first couple of emails back from people that were interested.
Okay, so there'll be more information coming up in the newsletters,
Yeah.
maybe even the July. What is this month coming up? April newsletter.
Do we have a venue
It's
It's
virtual.
virtual.
in October?
Yeah,
Yes.
it'll be, you know, it's really hard to make any plans right now for anything.
No.
It'll be hopefully the last one we have to have.
Hmm.
Well, we wanted to give the artists sufficient time to produce materials that go with the theme.
Oh, yeah. You're not starting too soon for that.
So, you know, anybody that's interested, if we get this out in the newsletter next month and let them know, it's October. It starts, I guess, October 1st. I don't know exactly when, but we just decided October was when we needed to get it going.
Which means everything has to be juried and done
Yes.
by, you know, before then.
Yes,
Yeah.
so we can launch in October.
Right.
Right.
It takes a while to set up one of these, even a virtual, especially even, it probably takes longer to do a virtual gallery setup than a physical one.
Actually, yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Curating it takes longer because you do move stuff around, you know, just like you do in a real show. And one of these people that I look at the wall grid and I count the little squares and I measure, and so
Yeah.
it's just like a real show in that respect.
So with any luck, this will be our last virtual show. Knock on wood. Okay, do we have, let's see. Literary. I know, there you are. I know Ellen's here. Ellen, do you have any updates?
No, I don't have on the poetry, but I know that's in process.
Yeah.
Also in November, we're going to have our literary readings, and the theme this year is going to be masks. I don't have, you know, that's all I have right now. So just think about masks between now and November and start writing.
So I think that's probably like the most time that we've given writers to come up with something for a reading. So I'm expecting good stuff. It's going to be a really big show. I can tell. I can give you a little update on the poetry readings. We have recorded all of the readings. I've made a draft of the first video. Of the video that will be going to our YouTube page, and I should be done with that tomorrow. I'm waiting to hear from one of the poets for some clarification on something, and I'll probably need to make a tiny tweak, and then it should be done. So the link for that will be in the April newsletter, and it'll go to the library probably right around the same time, the LaPorte Library, and it'll be up for about 3 weeks. Okay. And is there anything else? Oh, I do have something else. You know, we've been talking about a roster now for, nigh on, 5 years, I guess. And that discussion prompted us to do an investigation into some software to provide some better benefits for you as members and tools for us as administrators of the organization. Pleased to say we made a decision. We've spent a little bit of money and we're implementing it right now. And so I'm also hoping that there will be some information in the April newsletter about how you can set up your own account, show your stuff, and have a way of getting in touch with everybody. that also doesn't expose information you don't want exposed, and it'll just be cake. So right now it's batter, and it'll be cake soon. Okay, so stay tuned for that. And unless anybody has anything else, I will turn the meeting over to Ellen.
Thank you. I'm so delighted with this meeting tonight. It is literally a year ago when I had the speaker lined up for WiVLA and we had to cancel the meeting at the last minute. And after that, everything changed. And I know we have a lot of members in our group who are artists who have their own studios, their own businesses. And as an avid reader and writer, I am very dependent on bookstores for my sustenance. I walk in and I don't come back out again for a while. And I always have an armload of books with me when I do. So I am delighted that Ulrika Moats, who is the general manager of the Brazos Bookstore, my favorite place on the planet Earth, has agreed to speak to us tonight about everything that they have gone through with this pandemic. Now, Ulrika herself has an art background that includes metals, jewelry, art history, and graphic design. So she has, she's the artist as well as the person who's going to sell me my next book. And when I walked into Brazos and I said, I need a speaker, can someone help me? That was the quickest trip into Brazos. I was out within like 3 minutes with Ulrika's card and, said, yes, of course. So I don't know if Ulrika volunteered for this or if you were next up and drew the short straw, but thank you very much for agreeing to speak with us tonight.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yes, please take it away and tell us everything.
Okay, so thank you so much for inviting me into this. I think the person who actually gave you my card is our operations manager, who's also my husband. So that's probably ended up how this has come together. So yes, I do have a background in fine art. I went to Savannah College in art and design, which then led me into fashion merchandising, both corporately as well as I've been a district manager and worked in fashion retail for close to 11 years, which is how I got to Houston, which is also too how I became basically I was a shopper at Brazos and became very good friends with the GM at the current period of time. And when the company that I moved here for went bankrupt and closed, he basically snapped me up as their gift buyer because they were trying to go back through and kind of open that piece up. Brazos has been around since 1974. We've been in our current location since 1980. Unfortunately, this year we lost our founder, Carl Killian. He had retired in 2006 due to some health issues. And during that period of time, a group of local Houston people who love the bookstore decided to come together. There was 26 of them and they purchased Brazos Bookstore. And then a couple years ago, we've added 12 more people to our ownership group. So we now have a total of 36 owners and 9 board members that I meet with monthly. As I transitioned from gift buyer to overseeing kids programming, the job of the GM was not something I was really going for. And the first time around when it was open, I was like, no, I'm very happy with where I am. The second time that it's went open for that position, which was a little bit over 2 years ago, the board made the decision that I'd have the job. So, and I've been there ever since doing that piece of it. As you said, it was a year ago that COVID has happened. You guys closed down. It's pretty much the same for us. We knew that this was going to be happening probably towards March when I was reaching out to our board to say, these are what this is going to look like. How can we come up with a plan? So when this does happen and we do have to close, what is our best way to not only protect our staff, but also to let the community know that we might be closing down for a particular period of time. We closed on the 27th. We sent out an e-blast. We put things on social media. we made the decision to stay closed for the entire month of April. However, because my husband is also our ops manager, we actually ran the store, the two of us, from March 30th to May 5th. So it was the two of us in the store taking care of web orders, taking care of trying to get the shipment back to the store because we put a pause on everything. Our staff was able enough to stay at home. They were still paid, not necessarily their full amount that they would have been working, but we were able enough to make sure that they were still getting some type of an income during that period of time. We're a very small staff. We had 13 people. We're now down to 8. And so we decided that it would be best to keep everyone at home because at the time we didn't really know what this was going to look like, how this was going to impact anyone who was going to be sick. We have multiple people with some autoimmune issues. We also too have other people whose family either works in the medical field or in the funeral services. So we wanted to make sure that we kept everyone as safe as possible during that period of time, which is how Mark and I took over the store for a little bit over a month. We had weekly meetings. We used to call them Brazos family meetings every Sunday, where we would come together on a Zoom and literally stare at one another for an hour. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, what's happening? This is horrible. And we just wanted to make sure, and I wanted to make sure that we still had a sense of closeness, even though no one was able enough to come back into the store. The decision was made like May 5th that we would open back up for only curbside. Not everyone came back to work. Our book buyer's wife works at Indy Anderson, and she oversees 200 nurses. She's also a nurse herself, and a couple of people on her floor ended up with COVID. So we kept him at home along with a couple of people with autoimmune issues just to make sure that we weren't all together as much as possible. We made the decision to change the store's hours. We were open from 10 until 8, knowing that with catching up, we were going to need some time before we opened to the public. So we kept our hours from 12 until 6. We canceled everything. Publishers were thinking that, we're now in the spring, we should be back for the summer. We decided to move any virtual event at the time that we could onto Zoom, and trying to kind of get everyone into the process of this is what this is going to look like. As Houston closed down, New York closed down, publishers were closed down. There was a ton of people from publicists to customer service to warehouse staff that were let go. So a lot of the people who we worked with for event planning ended up not still having their positions. So we were kind of bounced around to try to figure out how we could still give the community a sense of our events, a sense of community, to make them understand that, even though we can't open our doors, but we're still here for you and we'll still provide great events. So that was a little bit of a challenge. Also too, there are 4 major printers in the country and 2 of them were closed. So a lot of things that were going to be released spring, summer, and fall got pushed back to 2021, and they're still kind of being pushed through. If you were an author, sometimes like debut authors do not have a date anymore when their books are going to be released. So we've had to push some pause on that. But the community overall was really great and very understanding, especially when we opened back up. We were receiving a lot of web orders. There was a little bit of trying to navigate with everyone and manage expectations that, yes, we're still open. No, we are not Amazon. We do not have a huge warehouse where we store a ton of our books. What we have inside of our store is what we have. And publishers are having a very hard time getting books to us, which normally would take us, if we have to special order 5 to 7 business days, could take us to 2 to 3 weeks before we got the book. That's if the book was even still in print. As we started to see a lot of the social, basically oppressed and people going back through with Black Lives Matter and protest and trying to educate themselves, there was another really big uptick in social issues, race issues, cultural books that people wanted. That was a big part of our summer. And again, it was managing everyone's expectations. You want the book, everyone across the country wants the book. The publisher wasn't prepared for a book that might have been 4 years old to now become a New York Times bestseller, and we don't have enough copies. Most of the people were totally understanding with, it's going to take some time, it's being reprinted, we'll give you a call when you get back. We did open up in June for 9 days. And so we felt that it was too risky for both the staff and our customers to have up to 7 people in the store. We did not go back and reopen until October 10th. During that period of time, while we were closed, but only doing curbside and taking phone orders, we had 3 elementary school book fairs virtually. We were still doing our virtual events, which looked a little bit different. Our expectations are a little bit different. When we're doing things virtually, a lot of the times we don't necessarily always see book sales to equal the attendance of people who are coming to virtual events. A lot of that is, I think people, there's twofold. The first is that people really enjoy getting a chance to meet that author, talk to them, have them sign that book physically. Now we have book plates, or the books have already been pre-signed either as a tip-in that they glue into the book, or it's an actual signed copy of the book that the author will get shipped to them. And the second piece is that you're missing that connection when you're at a reading. So we've noticed that as it's taken a little bit more work to do things virtually, we're not always seeing the audience that we would have when we've had like events in store. And we're also not seeing the book sales. And we really tried to narrow down what this is going to look like from an event standpoint. Things that we would have sold out if it was in person, we were only getting maybe 50 or 60 people. We were able enough to keep our entire staff. A couple of people ended up moving, so it kept dwindling our staff down a little bit. In September, our events manager left, which is now part of my responsibility. She also did all of our graphic design, so I've now managed to do a big portion of that, and we've all kind of come together and moved our strengths around to figure out how we can all support one another. And what our original jobs looked like before COVID is definitely not what it looks like now. And each of us have really taken on different pieces of it. Our kid specialist right now does the majority of our graphic design work, and I'm pretty much like an art director going over it to make sure that it matches and we're where we are at different periods of time. And everything else has just moved a little bit slower than normal. When we did reopen in October, we really started with 5 people allowed in the store. Social distancing, hand sanitizer is required when coming in. We put up plexi around both of our registers, just so that way there was a barrier between ourselves and customers. And as we slowly moved forward, the idea was that we would move to an amount of people that we felt comfortable as a staff, and that our customers would feel comfortable shopping inside of the store. We've remained at 7 people. Hopefully we will move that further up, probably not too much, because as Ellen knows, shopping in Brazos bookstore, you get 12 people in the store, and it can be very packed, especially if we have 12 people in our kids' room or around our fiction section. And the thing that I didn't want to do as we were moving forward is I didn't want to go back through and say, okay, we've now opened to 15 and now we have to go back to 7 and ping pong people around, and causing any more frustration that possibly could be happening with everything else of being shut down and people not being left to do things, and all of those types of frustrations that all of us have felt for the past year. And anything we can do to take baby steps, knowing that this is where we're moving forward and doing it in a safe way, so that way we don't have to backtrack, has been a really big piece of it. The staff has been great. We've all been very safe in our personal lives, most of us. I mean, I think I've stepped foot in a grocery store a handful of times since this has started. We've all really made a commitment to making sure that we are as safe as we possibly can be, and doing the things that we need to do as our own store community for one another to make sure that we stay healthy and we stay safe, and that we have everything that we need to do to make sure that we are not having to close the store down because someone has gotten COVID for 2 weeks. or that someone else has gotten sick. We did have one of our employees was mother-in-law ended up having COVID. So he was out for 2 weeks, and with a very much so piece of like making sure that everything was where we are at a good point. So we started off before COVID with 13. We then went from 13 to around 10. And then we went from 10 to, we have now 8. I'd like to say 8.5. I love Cassie. Our events assistant actually monitors our event from a very small town, North Carolina, because she moved back home to teach and to be with her mother. So she is our monitoring, she monitors our events. So she works a few hours a week, but in store, there is a total of 8 of us. So I now take over, I still do all of our gift buying. I now do all of our events. So I'm pretty much like our events director. I help oversee a lot of our planning for any types of events in store for both kids and for adults. We have our 2 kid specialists, our ops manager, our ops assistant, and we have our book buyer, a shipping manager, and we also do have our inventory manager. And as we've moved through, we're still doing, which is great, we're still doing kids events with schools. So that was a really big challenge at the beginning of the school year, because no one really knew if kids were going to be in school full-time, if they were going to be in school part-time, if we were, what that was going to look like, how many students were going to be left to attend, if they were going to have computer access. So we were able enough to still have these events for students. Some are still in classrooms, some are still at home. It's been a really great thing for them, because at the end of the day, it's a struggle, and anything that we can possibly do to help as a bookstore and as a community to kind of give back, we have been. We are still doing book fairs for multiple schools. So that way they're still able enough to make purchases for not only their classrooms, but for the students. And we have been really able enough to kind of spread where we normally would have been. Someone was asking about the painting behind me. I'm going to move my head. That was a birthday present to my husband when we were living in Florida. So we bought it at an art gallery. It was his birthday present. I was traveling and he'd gone into a gallery and loved it and was just like, I really love this painting. So for his birthday present, that was my gift. Does anyone have any questions?
So have you had a difficult time? This is Melody. Have you had a difficult time controlling the 7 people? Do you have a line that you have to
We
manage?
do have a line. Normally, our peak periods are usually on the weekends. So we've noticed that, especially if it's beautiful outside, there's a lot of people in the morning. I think as everyone, especially as we've opened back up as a state, and yet we're still maintaining our still COVID protocols, that we usually have a lot of people in the morning, and we'll have a lot of people a little bit towards the evening. The middle of the day on the weekends are pretty much good without a lot of lines. And during the week, except for this week, it's been spring break. So we've seen an uptick in people coming in, especially with kids. Everyone has been absolutely phenomenal, at least when it comes up to people physically coming into the store. We've not had a single problem with people not wearing a mask. Sometimes they forget and we're like, do you have a mask? And like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And they apologize and they go back and they get their masks. Everyone has been very understanding, even when we were in the winter and it was cold and rainy, that we're doing the best that we can. And they have been more than happy to be like, hey, I'm going to my car. We'll come back. It's just really cold. One of the things too that we do to help manage the line is that if you're coming to pick up your in-store pickup and you're not using our curbside table, we have someone step outside and say, hi, is there anyone to pick up something? So we can at least kind of like help get those people through the line. But everyone has been super understanding. And even when we moved from the state opening back up and we made that decision to keep all of our protocols in place, the amount of outpour of support that we received, both social media, I received phone calls from people in the community saying, thank you so much. We do have an older demographic that has been shopping with our store from the beginning. And that's, very important to make sure that they feel safe coming in to the bookstore without feeling as if they could very well get sick. We also have a lot of kids who are in our bookstores, especially on the weekend. So it's been an overall huge amount of support, and everyone has been very understanding. I think book people in a lot of ways are like, this is my space. And we have a few people who we're the only place that they go. They're like, I come into Brazos, I don't go anywhere else. And for me, if someone's going to be upset about it, that's fine, but I'm not going to risk my staff and our customers to make sure that we add more people into the bookstore.
So when you have someone like Ellen who comes in for an hour and keeps people waiting outside, do you?
I'm one of the old broads who goes in during the week, and so I've never had to stand in line, and I would have left early if there were people standing in line.
Okay.
And
For the
honestly, yeah, and people, we don't really tell people, we don't give them a time frame of how long they can browse for. So, like if Ellen wanted to stay there for 2 hours, we'd be like, perfect, it's fine. A lot of people are in and out. We do have some regulars that come like on a Saturday and they'll be there for like an hour and a half. But most people are understanding, especially families that will come in with like 3 children, mom and dad. We've made some exceptions of bringing an 8-person because they've literally left grandmother outside and it's 55 degrees. And I'm just like, please do not leave her outside. Please come in. You're one extra person. We don't care. You'll be fine.
If it's like a pod.
Yeah,
right?
you're good. Just come on in. And and one of the great things too is that because we have the amount of people that we have and we've moved things virtually, it's opened things up for us. Granted, some of our events are not as successful financially. However, it's opened things up for us that we've never been able to do. Authors are at home. You're literally having books that are coming out that in some cases have been buried between political unrest, just things that are happened, and no one can remember that your book came out. And now as we're moving into 2021, because they held on to so many titles, every month is just like an absolute bombast of new titles. So it's been allowing for us, like our book group that Mark, my husband, runs, he does our monthly book group. We now have authors all over the globe that now participate. And he's also a writer, he's managed to go back through and really connect with some of the smaller publishers and saying, this is what I would like to do for a book group. Can the author join? And we've had both author, translator. At one point, I think in October, we're going to have an author, translator, and an interpreter. So we've had authors from Portugal, we've had authors from Germany. We're now going to have tomorrow an author from Colombia and his translator. Pretty soon we're going to have, myself and our assistant is taking over his book group in May, and the author lives in Switzerland. So we're actually able enough to do those types of things, which we couldn't do before because everyone is at home. And this gives everyone a possibility to have people that we might not have had either for budgetary reasons, especially if they're on a small press. They don't necessarily have the big budget like a Penguin, Simon & Schuster, MPS, so they might not have never been able to come to the bookstore. And so it's been a really great partnership, and people get really excited about seeing someone that they might not have ever seen.
Yeah, it's been good and bad, and we've adapted, and that's great. That's great. Thank you.
Someone had just asked if we have online components of our events once we return to normal. Probably. I don't foresee, as we are planning into fall, no one knows what it's going to look like. And I think for a while, until we feel completely safe, we'll still have online pieces. And we were just talking about that the other day, even how we partner with Imprint. There will probably still be a lot of online. I think we're booked until November still online. And if we do decide to move forward with in-store, how we're going to approach it, at least at this period of time, it would be a very small ticketed number of people per event. So you could still be able to watch it, hopefully virtually, as well as having some people in the store. It's just not big enough to put a really large group. I mean, we have put 150 people in that bookstore for an event. And the idea of going back to that, I think, scares everyone. So we'll probably go back to very small, intimate events until we kind of see what we look like moving forward. Because I would hate to start to do that and then have to backtrack.
I've got a confession to make. I'm a hypocrite because I order books from Amazon, but I'm also a great believer in, independent bookstores. So I'm sorry about that. But then I came across a New Yorker article about a Kansas bookseller, independent bookseller called The Raven, his bookstore. He's in Lexington. Are you familiar with him?
Yes.
And the article really made me think and feel very guilty. And he's written a zine on how to resist Amazon and why. And I think I need to get that and read it.
And I think the thing is too, is that when we look at it from, and for us as a bookstore, when we look at it from a point of dealing with Amazon, we as a very small independent bookstore in Houston really can only do the best that we can do for our community. And our thought is you're going to find stuff on Amazon that I might not be enough to get for you just due to distribution and just how they manage. And I think the big piece, especially as we are moving forward and as we moved forward throughout this period, especially during the pandemic, is that trying to manage everyone's expectations. That yes, if you have Amazon Prime, it might take you 2 days. However, you still might not be enough to get it. And there's been titles that people could not get across any platform. And people are like, well, I can't even find it on Amazon. So I came to you. And I'm like, that's because the book is nowhere to be found. And publishers are also struggling as we're struggling, just as everyone else is struggling. And a lot of the times it's really trying to go back and say, this is how long it's going to take us. This is what it's going to look like. And thank you so much for your patience. I mean, when we opened back up in May and I brought everyone back, our web page, and there's people who do, there's 3 of us who work on web orders. Normally we have a page and a half, which might be like 15 to 25 books. We started back in May with 40 pages of web orders.
Wow.
And it took us until almost December to get through them all. Because people were like, I want to support you. And it was hours. If there were mornings I would come in at 7 o'clock in the morning and I would leave at 6 o'clock at night. And the only thing I did was process web orders. And we still were like, by the time we got to the page 2, we were ecstatic. We went home and we were back like 7 pages back. I was like, how did this happen? This is a good thing. But yet we're people. So we've literally said on social media too, like, when we order a book, we're not a computer. It's 2 people trying to get it done. Please be patient. We understand that everyone wants their things when we want them. And we've been trying to be as open and honest as we possibly can and transparent as we can about what this looks like for us. And even with getting books in enough time, we sometimes get books a couple weeks after the release date because the publisher can't get it to us. There's been books that were released May 2nd. They're out of print and I have no date and no one has a date. And people are like, well, I could possibly get it from Amazon. I'm like, if you want the book bad enough, I can't help you. By all means, do what you have to do to get the book. And that is because they have a warehouse and they have a ton of them, but you're going to have a hard time trying to find it independently. Someone was asking what are the most popular books sold through the pandemic. It's been interesting. I think for a while, if you were to ask how to, we would probably have to be a lot of books on race and culture has probably been things that, and everything from, for middle grade, the like Stamped from the beginning when it ended up coming out with like a middle grade version, that was a huge piece of it. It has been Anti-Racist Baby that came out in a board book. That has been huge. Ta-Nehisi Coates always sells, but that was another really big uptick. And for a while when it wasn't available in the United States, people were trying to order it from the UK. And I was like, I can't get that for you, sorry. A lot of our nonfiction, and especially within those sections, I think, especially after what happened with George Floyd, it became a huge, big focal piece for a lot of people from an education standpoint. For fiction, literally, it's been, some of the surprising things have been a lot of people now, because they can't go anywhere, are reading blogs, and they're coming in with lists of books that we are shocked about, especially books in translation that we're like, how did you find out about this book? And they're like, well, I've been sitting at home for a long time, and I kind of figured this out. So our kids stuff has been great as well. There's been a lot of just kids going back to Percy Jackson. We sold through Harry Potter, and Harry Potter for a while was out of print because parents remembered Harry Potter and everyone's at home. So it gave them an opportunity to read the entire series with their kids. One of the things that really kind of doesn't necessarily move as much for us is a lot of our art books, things that were normally kind of, which we always like to call like the kooky thing that you might just stumble upon at Brazos, and you're like, oh, you guys have this off the wall avant-garde book. Sometimes it could be about 1980 punk posters from the UK. Those are the things that we haven't had move as much, especially as we're not having a lot of people in the bookstore. But they're still buying, and for gift items, it's taken a while. Puzzles were really huge. We couldn't keep puzzles in for a very long time. I still have a hard time keeping puzzles in, but it's taken some things a while to kind of move forward and people to be able enough to touch things and to stumble upon things. And, you know, I will say too, we came up with a happy book display in October, November, because everyone's like, can you give me a happy book? There's a lot of us who read very dark, depressing things. So it was a scramble. You'd start looking around and everyone's kind of looking at each other to try to figure out to put a happy book into someone's hands. So we decided for 2 months, we had the happy book display. So if you wanted something happy, we were like, here's a whole bunch of great happy books for you. And because most of us read pretty dark books, I was like, well, here. So those have been kind of the fun little pieces that we've had as well. Any other questions?
Yes. I'm just finishing typing. I'm a slow typer. Okay, here it comes. Why, you know, we've heard about other bookstores, you know, caving in this last year. This is a great, innovative success story you've got going on as far as keeping things going and rallying the community. What are some factors you think have you know, is it the length of time been in business, or just your creativity, or, you know, why does some go on and some don't?
I think it's a combination of things. I can say from a managerial standpoint, it's how we've managed the store. I know Ellen's been in the store. She can probably speak to the fact that we've been very light. During the holidays, we were very, very light. And that was a decision that was made.
What does that mean? Like on inventory or people or what?
On inventory. We didn't have a lot of inventory during the holidays. And even when we opened back up, because we were really looking at the store as we have 7 people coming in. What do we need to scale back on? Our normal thing when we have a book that comes out, especially if we think it's going to be big, we might order anywhere between 12 to like 20 copies. We were ordering 6 to 10 copies. Because we also too knew that a lot of people might not necessarily be spending a lot of their money on things like books and things like that because of jobs being lost and things that were not necessarily, books might not necessarily be in your top priority list. So it was really managing our inventory. I think we got really creative with our programming as well as our partnerships that we were able enough to continue with and also to build. We worked with quite a few schools that we did not work with previously. We did Westview Elementary's book fair, which was a really big piece to our fall. We worked with the JCC for the very first time. We partnered with them initially during the summer for their Daniel Silva event, and that kind of led us to be their virtual book fair store during their holiday period of time. And really, a lot of people were like, you're independent, you're here in Houston, we're having an event. We do a lot of books events that we have nothing to do with except for we're the bookseller. So there was a lot of partnerships that were made during the beginning and even now throughout the pandemic of partnering with that, and really the community support of people saying, I want to support independent bookstores. I want to make sure that you're not going anywhere. What do we have to do? We do ship worldwide. We've had some pretty big events that have been really helpful. When we did the Margaret Atwood, we were shipping books to Portugal, to Australia, to France, to Canada, and just really trying to minimize where we can and maximize the most important pieces that we knew were going to keep the store afloat. And we're also too not open as long. So that's helped a big piece of it from a payroll perspective as well. And just really kind of going back to the bare bones.
I think that your approach then, I mean, is a model that any other organization or independent business could use as far as collaborating. And that's been WiVLA's thing, is to try to find other groups and other people to cross paths with and, you know, put your superpowers together and come up with something that will benefit you both. So I think that's very inspiring what you've had to say.
I think when we look at it, you know, we've always, and especially since, at least since I've been there, and I've been at Brazos for almost 8 years, we always look at this as like a community bookstore. It's not just Brazos bookstore, but we really look at this as a community situation. And there have been so many people who we've worked with that we've never worked with before, that were like, you know, and it didn't matter to us. I didn't care if it was a small, you're going to order 50 books from us and we'll put you on our website and we'll give you a discount code, to people who are part of your newsletter and people who are part of your community, to things that were really larger. It was, what can we do during this period of time when it's frustrating for everyone in a sense is hurting, and what can we all do to pull through this together and be beneficial for everyone across the board.
Very good. That's great.
And Ulrika, before you leave us, I have to say my favorite event happened in December of 2019 when you had Spooky Christmas. It was a small event, and I couldn't wait till it came back in 2020, and then it didn't because, you know, we weren't doing that then. My Christmas wish this year is that we can do Spooky Christmas 2021 at Brazos Bookstore. I will bring all my friends and as many WiVLA members as I can to.
I will let our book buyer know, who has been trying to do Spooky Christmas since I have been there, and everyone has told him no, and he finally managed 2019 to whittle me down to say, yes, you can do a Spooky Christmas. Just stop talking to me about Spooky Christmas. So he'll be very happy to know when I go to work tomorrow that someone has appreciated his Spooky Christmas and wants it back. So we can definitely add that to the holidays, even if it's virtual. I mean, did you drink any of whatever concoction that they had in the crock pot?
Yes.
Bless you for that.
He's still here.
Yeah, because that was nuts. Yeah, so thank you, and I will definitely let him know that we now have spans of Spooky Christmas and we would like it back.
Thank you.
So Ellen, this sounds like, you know, like a thing in progress.
Yes.
Yes.
I think you should collaborate with WiVLA on that, and this would be good because Ellen's been talking about it since 2019.
Good. I'm totally down. We can totally work on something for Spooky Christmas. As I said, you'll be thrilled. And actually this year our theme is going to be Cozy Christmas, so that will work out really well for the holidays. So, but yes, I will let him know tomorrow for Spooky Christmas. And thank everyone so much for your time, and it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
thanks.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
This is terrific. Yeah, we all want to run over there tomorrow.
So thank you so much. It was a wonderful presentation and inspiring, especially for those of us that have had a business before, really understand the effort it took to pivot. Does anybody have any announcements before we adjourn for the evening? Any shows, virtual or in person, any book readings, any books?
Melody, nobody's emailed me yet, so you've got a chance.
Oh, yay! I was so sure y'all were gonna beat me out. Yes, I did announce at the start of the meeting about this outing. I mean, April is our month, y'all. I mean, it's one of our best months of the year.
We were afraid you were going to check the time of our email.
What's the date again?
Hi. April 3rd.
April 3rd.
Yeah.
11 o'clock.
Yeah.
And if there are many more people, I will just book another one. So don't worry.
What are
Okay,
you
Kathy.
doing? Because I wasn't here because I was attending something for a friend in New
Well, at
York.
least you have the right shirt on.
I know I put the shirt on special for the meeting, but I didn't know that the other program was people who've been studying Psalms and doing poetry and music and art.
Oh,
Based
wow.
on Psalms. They've been studying for a year already. And so I had to be at that for a friend.
Okay, well, that does sound like it was a good meeting. So and you'll have to watch, I don't know when you came in, but we're recording it. So on April 3rd, there's an outing that Sally has signed up for at the U of H Outdoor Sculpture Tour. April 3rd at 11 a.m. You can email her I put the address in the chat at the very beginning of the meeting. You can email her to sign up. So there's 9 of us because Sally's not relinquishing her spot in the tour.
No way.
So
I also have an announcement.
okay.
I have a short story that's being published in an anthology. The anthology is called A Journey into the Fantastical. It's published by Inklings Press, and I don't know all the details on ordering it, but I'll get something into the newsletter. That's coming out this month.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Announcement in case people are interested. By the way, I used to give outdoor sculpture tours, but they took that outdoor sculpture away from the Blaffer, and it's this whole separate department now. But we do virtual tours. So if people want to put a group together for any exhibit, there's no exhibit up right now, but you can go back to we would do the Sayuko exhibit, which was a woman's artist, and we have a walkthrough of that. And we would do Hope House, which just closed, Carriers, which was local artists. So if anybody wants to put together a group, you can either contact Catherine or contact me and I'll work it out. So usually we need about 10 people because they pay us. So to make it work, I'm not trying to, and you know what? If it was a WiVLA group or a WiVLA program, I'll just donate back the money I get paid. So that way it's not like I'm making money by making an announcement. I don't like to.
That's can you send a little bit of a snippet to Haley newsletter? So
Sure.
someone who's not here has that. Kathleen, I think you had an announcement.
Yes, I wanted to announce that I will be spotlighted at the U of H Clear Lake newsletter for the alumni newsletter. And they're going to put the information about my new book. The new book is Outcry Response: What Educators Need to Know About Sexual Abuse. And I'm excited about that I'll be spotlighted in that newsletter for the alumni.
That's fabulous news.
I'll go ahead and put that in the chat too. Thank you.
Yeah, and you can send that also to newsletter@wivla.org. Okay.
I'll send
WiVLA.org. Okay.
Yeah, the deadline, one second, Rhonda. The deadline for copy that everyone on the board knows and real well is the 20th of the month. So,
So it's already passed.
No, it's not. Today is the 16th.
Oh.
Please,
Okay.
it's not passed. I haven't sent her my stuff yet. So Yeah,
So
the
thank you.
20th of the month, and that's for the upcoming month. So he sends out the newsletter near the 1st of the month. And so that's, that's only a couple weeks away from now.
So one other thing I totally forgot. Anybody ever been to Willow Waterhole? Probably
Yeah.
Joe.
Yeah.
Okay, so I go there to sketch a lot, and I have taken a lot of photos, and the painting that's by my studio at the silos right now on the wall is from photos I took, and I met one of the conservator volunteers there. And so they put my photos in their newsletter that is coming out, my painting, and also on their Facebook page, which I thought was really nice, and the painting does not look like it's in Houston. So it's called Urban Retreat.
Great.
I made that funny rock thing that he told me was recycling for highway rubbish, when they break up a highway and stuff, into a nice hill that looks like it's out west.
Oh,
The rest of it's pretty. I mean,
okay, great.
So-
Anything else?
Okay.
Okay,
fine.
ladies.
good to
Sounds
see
like
people.
we're on time this evening. So if there's nothing else, I think we have a meeting. Thank you very much. And if you have any news for the newsletter about any events that are upcoming for you, any readings or shows or what have you, be sure you send email to newsletter@wivla.org. Look for the newsletter in a couple of weeks, and we'll see you in a month. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Yay.
Okay,
Thank you,
thank
Erin.
you.
Thank
Good to
you.
see everyone.
Bye-bye.